Hi so buddies, welcome again to my channel. In this class we'll be learning how to make this Bustier top. This is just a cutting tutorial. The series tutorial will be uploaded after this. So if it sounds like something you like to learn, please stay to the end of the video. To my returning subscribers, thank you so much for stopping by, and also my first viewers as well, thank you so much for being here. Do not forget to like, to share, to subscribe, and also to turn on your notification bell.
This actual play is going to be the fashion fabric, and it's just like the regular gilly that you normally get, and it is in 3 pieces, and then the length is about 90 inches. So this is going to be sufficient for any size from size 6 to about size 12. So any size that is more than this, you'll be definitely needing more than this amount of ashoki. The total length of this is at 70 inches, not 90. Then we'll be using this crepe. This is a tea crepe, and it's going to be serving as the lining for this ashoki. The reason I got the tea crepe is because the ashoki is a very light one, so I need the crepe to give it strength. Then we'll be using a cotton nest there as well, and a matching zipper and thread. As for the breast part, we need to pad it. So this is what we call wadding. So it's like the soft, the not the soft one, and also not the hard one, the one that is in between. And then for ironing the bust area, we'll be using this breast pillow and this bust arm. It is these two are necessary for the shape of the bust area to come out well. So we'll go ahead and start drafting our pattern. First, I'll be revealing a starting line that will serve as the shoulder line for this pattern at this point here. Then we start with our horizontal measurement. So we'll start with the shoulder to bust point. Shoulder to bust point that I'm working with is at 9 inches. I'll mark it at several points so I can be able to connect it on a straight line. So marking my 9 inches here, and that is the bust point. Then I'll go ahead and mark the measurement for the shoulder to waist in the front. For this pattern, we'll be using a bust dart measurement. So because of this, we need to use the shoulder to waist measurement and in this pattern. So please do not forget to take such measurements on your clients when you are going to take that. And if you don't know how to take it, that is a visual representation on how you can take a shoulder to waist measurement in the front. I've gone ahead to measure the shoulder to waist measurements as 15.5, and I'm drawing out on a straight line at this point. So for the total length of this top, I like to use my waist to hip measurement as my top length. So my waist to hip measurement here is at 8 inches. So I'll be marking the 8 inches from below the waistline this way. I'll also mark that at several points and then connect it on the straight line. So the waist to hip measurement that I've just taken now will serve as my hemline. And this is shoulder to waist line. Then we'll also be needing an underbust measurement because we are working with a bustier, and working with a bustier, shoulder to underbust is very necessary. If you do not know how to take your shoulder to bust measurement, this is how you can take it. So for this one, shoulder to underbust is at 12 inches. So I'll go ahead to mark the 12 inches as well. Shoulder to underbust is 12 inches. Then I'll also connect that on a straight line. Then I'll also measure it as underbust measurement. So at this point, this is what we have. This is our shoulder line. This is the bust points. This is the underbust, shoulder to waist in the front, and this is our hemline. So we'll now proceed to take our vertical measurement. So we'll start with the shoulder point. The shoulder measurement that I'm working with is at 14 inches. So on your client, whatever value you get, divide it by 2. So 14 divided by 2 is at 7 inches. Then I'll go ahead to mark it at this point. So that is the 7 inches. Then to get our chest line and also the armhole measurement, we'll come down by 1.5 inches. I like to use 1.5 inches for bustiers so that you get a really good effect at the shoulder line. So I like to come up by 1.5 inches. You can also do the same if you like to. Then you go in by your regular neck width measurement at 3 inches. If your shoulder measurement is 8, after divided by 2, you can do 4 by 4. But because it is 7, I'm doing 3 here and then 4 here. So I'll connect this together to get this shoulder slope at this point. Then from this shoulder slope that we have gotten, we want to mark our chest line. And chest line for this client is at 7 inches. If you don't know how to get your own, just divide the bust measurement divided by 6 and then add 1.5 inches. So whatever you get will serve as your chest line. So I've marked the 7 inches from under the shoulder slope here and to get the chest line. Then you can measure the difference that you have at this point. It's not up to half an inch. So you can just replace it somewhere here just so you can be able to draw a straight line at this point. So now on this new line that I've gotten as your chest line, you want to take your bust measurement. And the bust measurement I'm working with is at 34 inches. So you are dividing the 34 inches by 4. So whatever your measurement for the bust is, divide it by 4 and then mark your measurement on the chest line. For me, it is 8.5 inches, and I'm going to mark it here at this point. So that I can be able to draw the armhole, I'll replace the measurement that I have here on the shoulder line on the chest line as well. That's 7 inches. And at that point, I'll connect a straight line this way. So after getting the straight line, on the straight line that I've just gotten, you want to get the midpoint of what I've just drawn out. The midpoint for me is at 3.5. Then from the 3.5 middle measurement, you have to come in by half an inch. Come in by half an inch so I can be able to draw out your armhole. From this point here, connect to the shoulder slope. Then you get your armhole curve to form this curve at this point. So you can just watch how it's done. So at this point, we are done getting the armhole curve and also the shoulder so that we have at this upper part. So now we want to move to the down part. From the bust point down to the hemline, you want to draw out your bust band measurement. That is the distance between one nipple to another nipple to nipple measurement. For me, it is 7 inches. So whatever yours is, divide it by 2 and place it. So I'm placing a 3.5 here because mine is at 7. 7 divided by 2 is at 3.5 inches. So I'm going to draw that, point that on each line and then connect it on a straight line. So after drawing it out on a straight line, this is what you should be having as well on your own. Now on your waistline, you want to take out your dart. Do not mix this up. So that is why it is necessary to label your patterns when you are drawing it out. Do not take the measurement from the underbust, take it on the waistline. So on the waistline for bustiers, I like to use 0.75 inches for for good contouring. If you're on the bigger size, you can choose to do 1 inch or so, but just make sure that whatever value you are taking, it is for your size, and you also replace it with the measurement. So I am using 0.75, and that is at this point here, 0.75 on both sides at this point. So if I want to measure both distance, I should be having 1.5 inches on both. So 0.75 here and 0.75 here as well. So from that point, you want to connect your darts from this line up to the bust point and then down to the hemline. But for the bust point, you come down by 1 inch at this point. So you connect these two. So you connect your dart legs properly. Then from your waistline to the hemline, you want to come down by 6 inches. This is like a standard. So you can come down by 6 inches at this point. So you can get the other dart at this line as well. So at this point, this is what your pattern should be looking like. So you can proceed to take your other measurement as well. The waist I'm working with is at 26 inches. Now 26 inches divided by 4, whatever your client's waist measurement is, divided by 4 and input it on the waistline. So 26 divided by 4 is at 6.5 inches. And then the dart that you have at this point, for me it is 1.5 inches. I'm going to go ahead and replace it. Do not forget to replace your dart, because if you do not replace your dart, you will not be able to zip up. The outfit will not fit at that point because it will be too tight for you to zip up. And for this particular bustier, I'm not using boning, I'm not snatching anything because I want to be as comfortable as I want to be. So if you want to be snatching, if you want to snatch your client or your clothes measurement, you can just go ahead and reduce the waist measurement, but just make sure that whatever reduction you are doing, it should not exceed 2 inches. And instead of zip that I want to use, you will need to use corset loops. So from this one that I've just replaced on the waist, I'll go ahead and connect it back to this chest line that we have drawn out our bust measurement on. So this is what it should be looking like. Then on my bust point, sorry, on my hemline, I'm going to go ahead and take my hip measurement. The hip measurement for this is at 10 inches. After dividing by 4, the hip is at 40 inches. So 40 divided by 4 is at 10. So whatever your value is, go ahead and divide it by 4. Then for the hip curve, I like to have a bit of a nice curve at this point here. So just use the straight part of the ruler. Try to use a curve ruler so you can have a nice shape drawn out. So this is what yours should be looking like at this point if you are following. So then we'll go ahead and take our bust dart measurement. And now you can get your bust dart. It's the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and shoulder to waist at the back. For me, it is 1.5 inches. My shoulder to waist in front is 1.5, is at 15.5 inches. So my shoulder to waist at the back is at 14 inches. There is always going to be a difference between the shoulder to waist in front and that of the back, because at the front there is the bust. So the bust is going to be adding more value to your shoulder to waist measurements in the front. So if you take your measurement, the difference could be 2 inches, could be 1 inch, it could be 3 inches. So just make sure that you're taking an accurate measurement so that you can be able to know the amount of inches you'll be taking for your bust side. So mine is at 15.5 in the front and at the back is at 14 inches. So 15.5 minus 14 inches, I'll be left with 1.5. So that 1.5 is what I'm going to take in as my bust dart. So you come on the line of your bust point, that is where the measurement will start from, because it is a bust dart measurement. So from this line here, come down by your own value. For me, it is 1.5 inches is marked at this point. Then that 1.5 inches, go ahead and connect it back to this line that you have drawn here as your nipple to nipple measurement. So this way you have taken your bust dart, and by the time you are folding it this way, you'll be having enough space to accommodate your bust. Now to the contouring part of the dress, this is how we're going to be going about it. But first, we will need to slash open our patterns. But before then, we'll have to get the midpoint between this shoulder slope that we have here. So you can just go ahead and just draw out your normal neck depth, so that it doesn't get confusing for you here at this point. So you want to get the midpoint between this slope that you have here. For me, I'm just going to go ahead and divide it so I can get the middle. Then from this middle, you will connect it up here to this your bust point measurement. So you should be having this at this point when you are drawing out your horn. So go ahead and take the underbust contouring, and how we'll go about it is you have to take the round underbust measurement. If you don't know how to take it, this is how you can take it as displayed on the screen. So for me, the underbust is 29.5, and the 29.5, I'm going to go ahead and divide it into 4. Here. So after dividing it into 4, I have about 7 inches and like 7.2 inches here. So I'll mark it at this point. So now to get the value that I want to use to contour my underbust, I'll have to measure what is left between this point that I have marked here and this point that I got here from connecting from the waist to the bust point. So for me, it is at 1 inch, exactly 1 inch. So that I'm going to go ahead and divide and add those values on these dart legs. Now, when you are trying to do this, I try as much as possible to not share it equally. Mine is at 1 inch, so I'm going to share it unequally. The lower part, the lower value goes towards the center front, while more of the value goes towards this point. So because I want to share this, if I'm to share it equally, it's going to be at 0.5, but because it's going to be unequal, I'm going to be doing 0.75 on one point and 0.25 at the other point. So by the time I'm adding these two up, I will be having 1 inch. So if you are measuring the distance between your own, it could be 1.5. So you can have 0.5 towards your center front and 1 inch towards the other side. But for me, I'm sticking to what I have here, which is at 1 inch. Then I'm going to go ahead and share it unequally at this, like that leg. So this is the point that is coming towards the center front. So from that leg that you have here, I'm going to come out by the 0.25. And the 0.25, that's just like half of an inch. So that's like 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to come out here at this is my own 0.25 here at this point here. Then for my the remaining 0.75, I'm going to come up by this second dart leg that is going towards the side front, and this is the point here. So by the time I am going to be measuring, by the time I'm going to be measuring this and this together, it's going to end up at 1 inch. Like for example, this is the point that I took my 0.75 from this side, so it ends here. By the time I bring the remaining measurements or this other point, it ends at 1 each. So I really hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. Whatever the difference is for yours from here to here, subtract, just divide this on equally. Like I said, yours could be 1.5, could be 2 inches, whatever value you get, just divide it unequally. For me, again, it is at 1 inch. So the lower part of the lesser value will go towards the center front and more value will go towards the side front. So this is how I've gone ahead to draw my horn. That is how best I like to do it by contouring for the underbust, and it just works perfectly fine. So from this point that we have just drawn out, now we'll go ahead and draw out our shape nicely. So you will need your armhole, your curve for this. So you want to connect from this point down to this right in a very nice way, following the curve, the natural curve. Just find the best angle that works for you and just go ahead with it. I've gone out to draw out this part. Then the other part as well, the 0.25, I'm going to go ahead and connect it also back to this point. So at this point now, I've been able to get my underbust contouring, and that's just it. Like that's totally it. So from this point that you have, you just connect it straight to that leg that you have on the waistline. So at this point, your pattern should be looking at like this as well when you are drawing your horn. So now over bust tightening, and first you will need to determine the where you want your dress to start from. So for me, I want it to start from like 3.5 inches above my chest line. So from there, I just want to go ahead and roll a straight line for this particular style that we are working with. So this might not be what you might not want to have this neckline that I want to that I'm having for my own, but if you like to have the same thing, you can just go ahead and repeat the process. So now this is where the blouse is going to be starting from. That is where I want mine to start from, so I can have enough coverage. I don't have my boobs exposing. So for the tightening at for the tightening at the over bust area, you will need to take in your measurement. For somebody that is very, very busty, for measurement that's like above 40 and all of that, you can go ahead and use 0.75. But for smaller sizes, 0.5 inches is okay at this point here. So you go ahead and connect that from this point down to this where you connected your bust points measurement. So you have it like this on a straight line, and like this. Yeah, so at this point, this is what it should be looking like. So for this side that is coming this way, just come in by just like a bit, like half of an inch, because by the time you are done, this is going to be kind of shorter in a way, so you will need this part to match up with this part. So this ends here, and this one, it ends with this extension that comes for this half an inch here at this point. So you can go ahead and slash this open, so I can be able to cut out to fold in the bust that. I have covered it up with the just cover it up here, you can just go ahead and, because this part is going to be unequal, so just find a way to blend it in at this point this way. So we're gonna need to blend it in like this, so it goes back to a straight line at this point. So this shape here is what I'm trying to draw out. So I figured that I would need to close up this point here so that I can be able to draw out my shape properly. So I can just remove this for now, and then also cut out this darts at this point. Shape properly like this way. Chest line. So from the bust line again, I'm coming up by 2 inches. Then I am going in by half of an inch like this. Draw out a straight line. Then from this upper point here, from this point here, I'm going up by 1 inch. So it's just what I did earlier. I'm just repeating it here. Then from this 1 inch I came up by on the red line, I'll go out by 1.5 inches. I'll connect it this way. Then from this up here, I'm going up by 1 inch. So the 1 inch ends here. I'll go ahead and just draw up a straight line at this 1 inch. So I'm going to be maintaining the remaining line here. So that is that at this point. I'm going to be maintaining it here. So from now, I want to get the other measurement, that is the curved part. So this time I'm going to be using my curved rule. So I just want to connect it in a way that from this point here, it connects to this armhole side here. So just try to find the best shape possible. So just try to place your rule rather, in the way you'd like it to be. I'm just trying to find the best shape possible. I could not get what I want. I ended up trying to use my hand to draw it first and find a way to curve it in somehow. So I'm just trying to use this to redefine what I just drawn out. So you can just draw this out until you are sure of what you want. So this is what I want, and this is what I am just going to be going for. So it's going to be cut out like this, following the red shape. So from this point here, I'm going to come up by another 1 inch. Remember that is that leg that we have in before. So just follow it and draw out 1 inch. So I figured this is the best way that we can have the shape that I'm looking for. Like this way. So this is how I want my shape to be like. You don't necessarily have to do this shape. I'm doing this because that is what I want. So I'm going to be cutting this out this way, this way, this way, following the red line. So now for the lower part of the dress, we want to have a scallop hemline. And really, this does not have a measurement, but I just try to find a way to try and craft a measurement for it. You can just go ahead and draw yours freehand, but I don't want to do that. I want it to be kind of equal. So I'm going to be coming up by 2 inches from my hemline. That is going to serve as my guidance to be able to draw a proper scallop. But like I said, it really does not have a measurement. So just go ahead and draw a straight line here. So now, from that point that we came up by, I want to go in by 1.5 inches at this point here. At 1.5 inch, I'm going to get this curved rule and draw it like this. Just try it and find a way to draw. So once you've drawn it, then from this dart leg, you also want to connect from here to this dart leg. This way. So now you want to measure the distance that you have here and here. Between this place and this place is like 2 inches. So you just want to go ahead and replace that same 2 inches at this point. Because if you do not measure this thing, it might not be equal. But if you know you can draw out a scallop neckline with ease without having to draw this out, please go ahead. So continue to draw this way. Another thing, I'm going to go ahead and measure another 2 inches here. But that would be like a straight line here, like this. So go ahead and draw it again. Like this. This is what I'm having. So you know that this is the 2 inches that we came in by before. So from there again, just try to measure. If you saw, luckily I still have up to 2 inches available. I'm just going to go ahead and draw it like this. So this way I have my scallop hemline ready, like this. So like I said, if you don't want this hemline, you might not. You don't have to go ahead and do the same thing. But if you want to go ahead and do this, I'll suggest you calculate it first before you go ahead and draw out your scallop neckline. I'm not even drawing this. At the end of the day, I might not even use it. But if I'm going to be using it, this is exactly what I'm going to be doing. So now we'll go ahead now and close our darts and go ahead to cut out our pattern. Yes. So please take note of the part that I am going to be cutting out. So firstly, I am going to be starting from this dart line. Let's take it from here. Following the shape that you have drawn out. When you are cutting this out, make sure that you are cutting on the pattern that you have cut out. So now, when I say I'm following the line, so this. So this is what the pattern for the center front is like this. I'm just going to cut out this scallop too. After cutting it out, this is the side front, and this is what it is looking like at this point, like this. So this will be placed together this way at the end. So this is what the hemline is going to be looking like. This will be splitted open, and by the time we are joining the neckline, it is going to be like this. So it is going to be like so. It's going to be like this when we are joining the neckline. After we are joining it, this is what it's going to be looking like at this point. So this is what we have now for the front pattern. So this is the back pattern. I have gone ahead to draw out the measurement at this point. It's just what I did in the front. The only thing is just that the shoulder to waist that is at the back is 14, not 15.5, like that of the waist. So that is the only difference that we have here. So every other pattern is the same thing. From those waist to this part is still at 8 inches. From the shoulder to waist here is at 14 because this is the back measurement. And I've also gone ahead to mark out the zip allowance. So every other measurement that I'm going to be taking will start from this line here. So I've also gone ahead to draw the armhole for the back, and this is what we're having at this point. Shoulder to chest line, shoulder to bust point, shoulder to waist, and then the waist to the hemline. So we'll go ahead and take every other measurement. So we'll start by marking our measurement for the nipple to nipple measurement just to get our dart. And like I said earlier, for the front pattern, it is nipple to nipple for me is 7 inches. So you divide your nipple to nipple measurement by 2. For me, to 3.5. So I'll mark the 3.5 starting from this line here as my nipple to nipple measurement. So I'll go ahead and connect this on a straight line this way, just like I did at the front. I took 0.75 for the dart, take it again on this one too, and I'll also replace it like I did at the back. 0.75 here, 0.75 here. That is it. Then I'm going to connect my dart at this point like this towards the bust point. So it's just like your normal basic block that you normally draw. From here, coming down by 6 inches, I'll go ahead and connect that as well. So like I said, I just repeated what I did at the front. It's just that what the back does not have under bust measurements, and the shoulder to waist is also different. So this is what we're having at this point. I'll go ahead and take my waist measurement at 6.5. The waist is 26. 26 divided by 4 is at 6.5 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead and replace the dart. Never forget to replace your dart. You measure from this leg to this leg. For me, it is at 1.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and replace it at this point here. So I'll connect from this my armhole, that is my bust measurement, connect it down to this waistline here. This has to be connected this way. Then on the hemline, I'm going to go in by my hip measurement, which is 40. 40 divided by 4 is at 10 inches. And I'm also going to go ahead and connect from here down to this point I've marked here with this curve. Yeah, so this is what your back pattern should be looking like at this point. So we want to go ahead and mark out our line as well. You want to mark your dart at this point. You want to divide your shoulder slope by 2, divide it by 2. Whatever you get, mark it and connect it down to this point, to your bust line. Okay, like this. So I want to come up by what I want my shoulder, my what I want to use as my new chest line. My new chest line, I'm going to just maintain what I have here as my chest line. So this point here. So now to get what I want the length, so now to get where I want my top to start from for the back, I like to bring back my front pattern, the side front one, and I want to make sure that I'm having the total, I'm having equal length at this point. You see that after closing the bust, I'm having equal stuff here. So this point is what I'm going to be maintaining as the beginning of my chest, which is at the beginning of my top for the back, and I'm just going to maintain this chest line. And I just want it to have a bit of just a bit design. I want to come here by 1 inch, then I'll go ahead and curve it this way, just to have a bit of a curve, really, like this. So this point here is going to be where my back measurement is going to be starting from. So we don't really need this, but I did being your top is going to be starting from upper here, from somewhere around there. You will just need to do your dart like you did it in front. But since my top at the back is started from this chest line, I'm just going to maintain it. Just going to be using whatever it is here, so I don't need to touch this place out because I do not need it. So my measurement when I'm cutting it out will be starting from here, this new line that I've just drawn out. So now we want to go ahead and draw the scallop neck line that we have here. Just what you did in the front, go ahead and repeat it at the back. What we did first was to come up by 2 inches, 2 inches, and then connect it on a straight line like this, right? And then what I did again was to come in by 1.5 inches at this point. Then connected my 1.5 inch to this in a curvy manner this way. Then from here I want to connect down to this point. I'm just repeating what I did in the front, really, so you can just go ahead and repeat what you did with the front pattern. Remember I said that I'm not snatching anything. I'm not using any boning. I'm not using corset loops. I'm using zip. So this is it. I'm just going to go ahead and extend this as well into the zip allowance like this. So I'll go in by half of an inch on this point. Then I'll connect it to this new line here. That is the beginning of my top. And also the same thing here. So now this is what I'm having. So this point now will be my center back, and here is going to be my side back. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out this pattern. So just watch out. the center front, the center back. This is center back, this is the side back, then this is my center front, and this is my side back. So by the time you are bringing these two patterns together for the side back, the sides now will be the same thing at this point here. By the time I'm done closing up my dart for the bust dart, it's going to be the same length and here. So this is what we have at this point. So I'm just going to go ahead and now cut this pattern on my fabric.